Shalom, this is Yair Davidiy, speaking to you from Jerusalem. I represent Brit-Am. Brit-Am is an organization that researches the whereabouts of the lost 10 tribes. We hope you enjoy this video. We're going to tell you where the lost 10 tribes are. We're also going to tell you a Bible story, a story from the Bible and its significance and what really happened, or not what really happened. We'll give you a deeper insight into what happened. We'll get you closer, and ourselves also, closer to the reality behind the Bible. The Bible is literature. The Bible is the greatest story ever told, the greatest story that ever was. The Bible has everything in it. It's literary, it's literature, it's poetry, it is edification, it is wisdom, it is historical truth, historical significance, symbolism, mysticism. Anything you want is in the Bible. The Bible gave rise to Western civilization. Anything that is good in Western civilization, it came from the Hebrew Bible. It still lives, it thrives because of the Hebrew Bible. What we have in our life today is good because of the Hebrew Bible. The Hebrew Bible is the source of our life. And the Hebrew Bible, in addition to its literal simple meaning, it also has a paradigmatical, a prototypical significance. It shows prototypes and paradigms concerning what rules of life we live by, what the reality is. So one of the most important stories in the Bible is the story of Joseph, which is found in the book of Genesis. Joseph and his brothers, how the brothers were jealous of Joseph, sold him as a slave into Egypt. In Egypt he became the effective ruler of the country, and he helped save his brothers and became reconciled to them. And this too has significance for the future. The whole story also reflects on the characteristics, tribal characteristics of the different brothers, and interactions between them, and everything around it. It's worth knowing. So the story of the Bible begins with the patriarchs. Originally had Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham was the first Hebrew. After Abraham came Isaac. Isaac begat Esau and Jacob. Jacob took the blessing, the firstborn right, from Esau by subterfuge, by disguising himself as Esau. Esau wanted to kill him, so Jacob fled to his uncle, Laban, and in Paddan Aram, there he married Leah and Rachel, who were two sisters. Leah and Rachel, and they had handmaidens. Leah had the handmaiden Zilpah, Rachel had the handmaiden Bilhah. Actually, according to tradition and also indications of the verses themselves, the two handmaidens were also daughters of Laban, but from the lower status wives. And so these four women gave rise to the 12 tribes of Israel. Jacob took his wives and took his children and returned to the land of Canaan. In the land of Canaan, his wife Rachel, who was his favorite wife, the one he loved most, she died giving birth to his last son Benjamin. So Benjamin was there for the last son, and he was the son of his favorite wife. So this will be seen to be important as we go on, this fact. And Joseph and Benjamin were both the sons of Rachel. Rachel was his favorite wife, and Rachel had died. So he became attached even more to the sons of Rachel. And Joseph, he gave Joseph a cotton parsim, what is called a cotton parsim in Hebrew. Actually a tartan type cloak, like the Scots have tartan. They have a tartan design. They have a tartan design on their cloak. And so too, the ancient Hebrews also used this design. We find this archaeological findings, pictures of people from the land of Canaan, of the ancient Hebrews, occasionally do depict them wearing a tartan type cloak. This was known. Not only that, also the commentators translate this word parsim, cotton parsim, to mean a cloak, with a design of interlocking lines, like a tartan, of a tartan type. And the commentators also say that this cloak denoted rank, as the Scottish tartan also originally was said to denote rank. And we also find that later on the daughters of David, who was king of Israel, so we find in the book of Samuel, when David became king of Israel, he had a daughter named Tamar, and it says that she had this same type of cloak. It could not pass him. Sometimes it is translated as a long-sleeved garment, but this is incorrect. They use the same word, the same expression as they use for the cloak of Joseph. Emek Davar, one commentator, rabbinical commentator, says that in effect all the sons of Jacob had such a cloak. Could not pass him. Only Joseph was more important and somehow of much better quality than that of the others. Therefore, they were jealous of him. Also, Joseph had dreams. He had dreams that sheaves of wheat would bow down to his sheep, and they had dreams of the stars. The 11 stars and the sun and the moon would bow down to him. And he understood these dreams to mean that he was destined to become a great man, to rule over them, and they would bow down to him. And he told them these dreams. And they were jealous of him, they were irritated by this. Also it says that he brought a bad report about them to their father. It says, now in Genesis 37, verse 2, now these are the records of the generations of Jacob. Joseph, when he's 17 years old of age, remember he's only 17 years old of age, was pasturing the flock with his brothers while he was still a youth, along with the sons of Brit-Am, the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought back a bad report about them to their father. He brought back a bad report about them to their father. Dibat-Amara, it says in there. Dibat-Amara in Hebrew means not only that the report was bad, but it itself was bad. It was unreliable. It was based on mistaken sources. It was bad in its essence. Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch discusses this from an etymological point of view, and he explains how we get to this. So this is an important point. Joseph had made a mistake, and he brought back a bad report about them. His father was showing them favoritism. He gave him a cloak which denoted rank over them. He had dreams of ruling over them, and he was telling tales about them. These were not just tales. These were tales that could have caused them to be dispossessed by their father. And we have to remember that these people were alone. They were in an alien country, an alien culture. The people had a grudge against them since a whole city of theirs had been wiped out by them. And only through divine intervention had they not exterminated them. And they were liable to take a revenge upon them, and anyone who was outcast from the family or dispossessed from the family and lacking in possessions would have been at the mercy of those around him. And not only that, but they had wives, they had children, and they had obligations, they had to survive. And Joseph was putting this in jeopardy. So they had a council, they had a meeting. They brought 10 of them. They brought together 10 of the brothers. Well, there were Joseph, the 12 brothers. Joseph was one. Benjamin was another. Benjamin stayed with his father. So he had 10 brothers in the field. So that these 10 brothers were in the field looking after the flocks and the herds. And they saw Joseph coming towards them. Their father, Jacob, sent Joseph to help them mind the flocks. And they saw Joseph from a distance, and they had a discussion. They decided what to do with him. And they were apparently afraid of him. He was threatening them. And they decided he was guilty of seeking their harm, a pursuer. And they decided to kill him. And then Reuben spoke out and said, do not kill him, but throw him into a pit, and let The elements take care of him. At that time there were bears around, wild bears, as we find elsewhere in the Torah, the wild lions, the wolves, all kinds of other animals, all kinds of things could happen to a person who's in a pit alone. Can be bitten by a snake, can be bitten by who knows what. All kinds of things can happen to him. Sooner or later he's going to die from thirst, from starvation. He's not going to last long in the wilderness. So Reuben suggested, don't kill him, don't put these, after all he's still your brothers, he's still our brothers. Let's throw him in a pit and let the elements take care of him. And then Reuben planned, he intended to go away and come back. So indeed, and then take Joseph out of the pit and restore him to his father. And indeed he went away. Reuben went away, as we learn later. Reuben gave the advice, they took the advice, they agreed to that, and then Reuben went, intending to return. Meanwhile, the brothers sat down and they were eating, and a caravan of Arab types, Ishmaelites, Midianites, possibly both Ishmael and Midian, they joined together according to some sources. Ultimately they joined together in part, so they could have been both Ishmaelites and Midianites together. Or it could have been first one and then the other. First one, caravan came by, and then another, but there were two of these elements, Ishmael and Midian, were involved in buying Joseph from the brothers and taking him down into Egypt, where he was sold as a slave in Egypt. The brothers took the cloak of Joseph, tore it up, and then they took a goat and they killed it. When they killed the goat, it says, Yishchatehu. They killed it in a form of ritual slaughtering. In other words, they used a kosher method of slaughtering, even though they didn't want to eat it. So why should the Bible tell us this? Why should we not? Because we see here that they did use a method of ritual slaughtering, even though they didn't need it, because they weren't going to eat the goat, they were only going to use its blood to dip the cloak in it. But even then, they were strict about using, killing, only eating after ritual slaughter. And so we understand from this, or the sages understood from this, that apparently the false report or the mistaken report that Joseph had brought to their father concerning them said that they had not been strict about eating meat that had been properly slaughtered and prepared. Another thing that we see later, that Joseph, when he was taken down to Egypt, he was falsely accused of interfering with the wife of his master, of attempting to rape her. And from that too, we understand that Joseph, apparently in his false report, he also said that the brothers were suspected of illicit relationships with the Canaanite women. And we find this throughout this whole episode, midah for midah. You do something and then something is done to you and it reflects what you have done previously. And even for good, even when you had done something because God told you to, or you had been ordered to do so, so too, when you are requited, you might have something done back to you which is a reflection of what you did. Just as previously we had heard how Jacob had disguised himself as Esau. Jacob disguised himself as Esau, his brother's twin brother, and he went into Isaac, their father, and he received the blessing that had been supposed to go to Esau. He received it instead of him, and because of that, Esau hated him and planned to kill him after their father should die. And so Jacob had to flee, and he fled to Laban, his uncle, the brother of his mother. And there he married Rachel and Leah. And so too, as if to say, he's being requited, he's being presented with a garment, and he's being misled by the garment. In the same way as Jacob dressed himself up in the garment of Esau in order to mislead his father Isaac. So we have these patterns, recurring patterns in this story of